Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Tips for Socialization Roundtable. We have a lot of different guests with us today. We have Ashley White with Gypsy Game Schooler, Linda McCarthy with Music Duo, Sharon Jeffis with Visual Manna, and Kimberly Bennett from the Homeschool Counseling Network. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be diving into some questions and tips on not only helping kids to be able to meet their socialization requirements, but how to answer that question that everyone seems to ask of what about socialization? So I would like to start with the broad question of what do you do to socialize your kids? So Ashley, let's start with you.
So the first thing to realize about my family is that I am very introverted and my kids are very extroverted. So balancing those needs can be tricky. The other thing is that we travel full time. This is not working. There we go. And so we're always moving and there's not really any consistency. So in order to meet my kids' needs, I focus on making sure they get around other kids. And, if we're going to be in a spot for a while, we now know, okay, we need to make sure that it's a spot with lots of other kids. We spent a couple winters ago at a day use only state park, and there weren't a lot of kids. And mine did start to get lonely after a couple of months. So now we know if we're going to be somewhere for a while, make sure there's lots of other kids around.
Okay, you want me going next?
Yes, Linda, I would like to hear
Okay.
how you help to socialize kids. I know that you are a former teacher, and so I would love to hear it from that perspective as well.
Oh, okay. So I'll just have two quick perspectives. I have 4 children, and so they are all grown and married and children of their own. So, but we had church. Church was huge, so we had lots of activities. Our church was very active in making sure the youth had all the activities and everything. So, and they were in band, but I will say my kids were not homeschooled. My husband's kids were. He put them in sports, and that's how they got. As a teacher, elementary music teacher, I found that my classes were the chance I could get them to socialize because they're sitting in the classroom, either looking on a device or doing their homework at their desk, lining up in line. Do not talk in the hallways. Do not talk very loud in the cafeteria, and just, some places not at all. And so I loved it when they would come to my classroom because we could sing together. We could play instruments together. We could play games. We could compose things. And so they thought they were just playing a game and having a lot of fun. My goal was for them to sing the song 25 times to get it in their head. But when they put a game to it, they had to learn to take turns. They had to learn to read off of each other. When we do a traditional dance together, I'd have them thank their partner afterwards. So I really loved that I could do all that socialization in my music room.
Sharon, I would love to hear from you on this topic. I think that you are muted, Sharon, still.
Thank you. I really think it's important for young people to engage in creative activities where they're not just part of a technical, they're not the computer, the phone, but they're actually thinking for themselves. And it's really fun. I've been doing some research on the arts and crafts of the Depression and how people didn't have a lot of money. And so they were very creative with things that they did. And it's just amazing. And I thought a really fun activity, I know with, I used to have a studio, and you could take like maybe 4 or 5 high school young people, perhaps, take them to a thrift store, or your children, and let them buy one thing and then let it turn into something really cool, like if you bought records, the old records, We used to paint on the old records, very simple with acrylic. You can buy a painting and then let them enhance it. And one of my students did a coffee painting, a big cup of coffee, and she put a mermaid in it in the cup, and made it really sweet and really creative. So you can actually go into a thrift store and even, I even had kids like, actually we started selling these, but chairs, you buy an old wooden chair, and they were so creative because with the back chairs, they would make the rulers and the pencils, and the blackboard would be the seat. And some of them sold their chairs for $40 a piece. And I'm not kidding you. It was amazing. Or the front of the chair would be a daytime scene. The back of the chair would be a nighttime. And my favorite ones, I'm doing a PowerPoint with pictures of these and everything. It was where somebody would take a fur coat and paint it on the chair like it was sitting on the chair. But there's old things that are being thrown away that you can recycle and turn in, just like quilts. Amazing. The people that want to save money, what they actually do is do this. And the socialization is the fun of, it's all your idea. I think more important than anything, if kids can come away and be so happy with what they've done, not a part of a coloring page, not a part of something that someone else has thought of, not one of the handouts, but something that they have ownership of, that they can say, this is my intellectual property. And this is something that I have created myself. And I think it really helps because you've got so much of the, again, it's fascinating. We're battling like a visual. It's amazing. And we have to get kids engaged and thinking for themselves. I think it's so healthy for them to do that.
Being able to do something like that at a homeschool co-op, especially as a way to even potentially like raise funds for the co-op,
Yes.
to be able to do events, that would be super fun. Oh, hi,
Yeah.
Samantha. Thanks for joining us from Florida. So, Kimberly, I would love to hear from you about socializing your kid and how you accomplish that.
The only reason I kind of giggle about this is because I have an only child, and that question came up long before I was a homeschool parent at all. Like, aren't you going to give him siblings? He's going to be so lonely. He's 11 now. We're entering our 6th year as a homeschool family. And we asked him when he was younger, we're like, do you want siblings? No, I absolutely do not. He had a friend who prayed for a younger brother and got one. And then we're like, oh no, is he going to pray for a sibling? Because we're going to have to explain that door's closed. So long story short, that we kind of went into it knowing that we have an only child and he's very extroverted. I'm extroverted. My husband is introverted. We are yin and yang. We go together. So long before I was a homeschool parent, I sort of had to build those socialization experiences into our routine. I would take him to, when he was really little, before he was old enough for school stuff, I would take him to library reading times when they would have story time at the libraries, or I'd take him to parks. Because, when your kids are really little and they're under 5, everyone's their friend. They'll go and meet and play with anyone at a park. So we would just go and he's like, oh, look, all my friends. He didn't have a clue as to who any of those other kids were, but he would play with them. That's just, that's his personality. He doesn't meet a stranger, which is other issues for another day that we'll talk about. We've gotten better with that since he's gotten older as a safety issue. But as far as with him now as a homeschool student, the only time we really faced issues with socialization was during the pandemic. The whole world faced that as an issue then. This was our socialization. And we did the best that we could. We had pods that we associated with. We attended a small little pod where homeschool mom was, she let other kids come into her home. But we kind of don't put all of our eggs in one basket. We have neighbors just down the street that we're close with, that I know that home. I know it well. And he can go down there and play. And we trade off with those play dates with this other trusted family. We are really involved in our church. We met our closest Texas family friends, as I say here, because it's just us tight trio here, all of our families back east. So we met our closest family friends here when our son was 20 months old, and we built our relationships out from there. I would say opportunity presents itself. You just have to sort of seize it where it comes. So for now that he's older, he's 11, our socialization comes from a lot of different things. It comes from swimming when he's with his swim team. It comes from the music lessons that he takes with his learning to play music. Yes, the drums. Thank you, heavens, for electronics, drums, and headphones for this mama. So, because yes, my husband bought him those. I'm like, we do need to stay married. There better be headphones for that. So, for those different things, different classes. In the summer, he does camps like we've done. He did a cooking camp recently, which in turn mama's appreciative for, because then he learns how to make a few meals on his own. Cleaning up's another story we're going to get to. But in other words, you can don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's a lot of different sources that you have. I met a lot of my groups on Meetup first when I was new here in Texas and trying to find other homeschool mommies to socialize with. There's also Facebook groups where you can find in your local community. Get out there, take a look at it, take your kid to a park. There's lots of different ways to socialize your child.
I totally agree with that, Kimberly. As a homeschool graduate myself, and a lot before a lot of the online Zoom stuff was available, I have a lot of siblings, so that was one thing that I still get to this day. As an adult, when I say that I'm homeschooled, they say, well, how did you meet your socialization requirements? Which I think is funny because I'm out talking with people and having a conversation with them, and so I'm like, kind of like this. But we made sure that they gave us opportunities to be able to volunteer at different places. That was a big one, especially as a teen, to be able to do different volunteer projects. And I was able to meet people that were around my same age. And one of the really cool things that I found with homeschooling is that you're not just socializing with people that are your same age. So I was able to socialize with people that were much older than me and that were able to provide mentorship. And then there's also, watching the younger kids that were at the homeschool co-op and being able to interact with them and know how to be able to interact with little kids. And so I feel like you get a lot more socialization as a homeschooler of different types. Some of the tips that we've seen in our group, we've talked about this a lot because this is a really hot topic for a lot of homeschoolers, but Sandra Salazar said that instead of forced or rushed socialization between classes, they get unlimited free-range socialization. And I think I'm going to use that term for myself now. That is hilarious. I love it. But they're always out and about. They have play dates, sports clubs, and going to the store. Elizabeth Rook said if you go and run errands with them, they're going to see how you socialize and talk with other people, and they're going to be able to mimic that. So they're going to be learning manners and how to behave by watching you in the store or at the dentist appointment or wherever you're taking them with you. They're going to understand the different procedures and the way that you're supposed to act at the doctor's office. You're going to have opportunities to be able to train them these things. A lot of people go to the local homeschool groups and be able to start meetups, because if you don't have meetups in your area for play dates or different classes, you can start them. You can do martial arts, 4-H, music classes is one that I've seen a lot of people mention. Really is a really great way to be able to meet other kids that are around your same age range and have a structured activity that you're all doing. So especially for the kids that are introverts, that need a little bit more of that structure to be able to interact with people, that can help a lot. And one special mention I want to add is Lego Club. I would have adored having a Lego Club as a kid. And I definitely think that if you don't have one in your area or your library doesn't run one, start one. Legos are super fun and they totally bring kids together. So let's talk about how do you teach your kids manners and social skills? Ashley.
So it's mostly just the way you teach manners and social skills to any child by just showing them how to do it. Like I say please and thank you, so they do. If they forget, I remind them sometimes. Sometimes I say it for them. It's not really that hard. And actually, it's funny about the social skills thing. I have been to, I think, 18 years of public school with the public universities. And my kids are better at social skills than I am. When my daughter was 7, I watched her walk up to a complete stranger and introduce herself and her big brother. And I'm looking at her going, I can't do that. So my kids teach me.
Love that. Linda, do you have any tips for teaching manners and social skills?
I think she hit the nail on the head. Be the example. If you're the example, and then, provide reminders when, if it's appropriate, when it's appropriate. It's always, there's always going to be some time. And I also feel like eating dinner together is a perfect place to teach manners and social skills. Getting everybody around the table at dinner time, no electronics. Let's just, also kill two birds. I hate saying that. I like birds. Anyways, getting there, teaching the manners, like table manners, and then also, socialization. And so, yeah. But like I said, when we do dances, I'd be teaching, because I know a lot of these kids that came to my schools did not, some of them were very polite, and I just went, wow, I really appreciate their parents, because they don't come out of the womb knowing how to do all this stuff. Somebody's got to teach them. It can't just be chance. So I think you just have to be mindful of it.
And Sharon, I would love to hear from you on teaching manners and social skills.
Okay. I think kindness is so important. Like when I know as an art teacher and public and private and homeschool and everything, I would always, if you can't say something nice, you have to have people they're so sensitive because it belongs to them. And if you can only say, wow, can you tell me about that? Isn't that interesting how you use the color green? Oh my goodness, because success builds on success. And so kindness, I think, is so important to teach children kindness. And just for fun, there's George Washington's rules of civility. So I thought it would really be fun when you read these, maybe just take one an evening, because some of them we think, oh my word, I mean, they just sound like when in company, or show nothing to your friend that may affright him. In the presence of do not make humming. It's just really funny, but George Washington actually wrote them. And when you think about it, it might be fun just to, I think the kids can, I went to look at that, but I think kids can learn just by discussions like that and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? That was a George Washington. That was one of his important rules of civility. Do you see that today? Just having a fun discussion around the table, I think would be fun, because it's just very different and very interesting.
I think that's really interesting. I actually just went and pulled that up. I'm going to look into that after the roundtable.
Yeah,
That looks
it's
interesting.
fun to look at.
Kimberly, I'd like to hear from you on manners and social skills.
There's a couple things that I used to do as a therapist and working with parents when I was a working therapist. I still am one now, but I've not done services since our son was born 11 years ago. But for starters, modeling. That's the one thing we've all kind of agreed on is, kids are not always going to listen to what we say, but you better believe they'll notice what we do, and then they will follow suit. And if you're not doing it, they'll call you out on it too. So it definitely begins at home. And for us, it started with word books. We just started with reading about, and it kind of goes hand in hand with character ed. It goes on your value system and what's important to you and how you communicate with other people around you. And that communication starts from when they're really little, even in their home, with how you communicate with them, but also how you communicate with your spouse. So, and they will notice those things, even if you think they're in bed and even if you think they're not listening. Oh, they are. They are. So you're teaching them how to communicate with other people, first inside the home. And then when you venture outside the home, whether you're in the grocery store or whether you are whether you're at a friend's house or whether you are at a public event or a public gathering, anything like that, whether you're in church, you are teaching them how to age appropriately. And the little ones, they're going to forget quite a bit. Who am I kidding? The older ones are going to forget too. So they're going to need those reminders. But when you do the reminding, one way to really get your child to listen more is do it with humor. And do it with tongue in cheek, not with snarkiness by any means, but with humor and tongue in cheek. Maybe give them examples of the really way you shouldn't behave, but you're the person doing it, and have them correct you Kids think it's hysterical because they always have somebody else bossing them around and telling them what to do. But if you're the one who is setting up and doing a scenario, kind of role play, we call it, where you're making all of those faux pas and you're making all of those mistakes, and then you get them to kind of be the American Idol judge, which I've never seen in my life, but one of those where they give you a feedback of, okay, mom or dad, here's how I think you should do that differently. You'll see a different, they will remember it differently, they will understand it differently, and they will hold on to it differently. Let them be in the driver's seat.
I love that, Kimberly. I would say that some of the other things that you can do is give them opportunities. I remember the first time that I had to call and order the pizza, and I hadn't been paying attention. You know, how do you do that? How do you like? And she's like, "Well, make sure ask for the specific sauce." I'm like, what's the procedure? And she's like, you just ask for it. And so giving opportunities for kids to be able to do things like, okay, I want you to go and order lunch for us at the cafe. This is our order. You have to go and put it all in and make sure that it's correct. And giving them opportunities and having modeled the behavior and then giving them an opportunity in a safe space, like if it's a cafe that you go to all the time and that they already know you and they probably know your order, the kids stumbling over the order or being super nervous isn't going to be that big of a deal. Or, okay, we're at the grocery store. You're going to pay for the groceries today. And doing different things and being able to give them safe ways to be able to practice some of these skills is a really great way to be able to help them with those social skills and be able to kind of check in. Like, okay, how are they doing on their, anxiety? How are they, if their kid is really shy, giving them opportunities to be able to get over that. I know something that happened, you mentioned corrections and giving them corrections. I remember something really funny. We're all like homeschool graduates, adults now, my siblings. And my sister Isabel was just really tired one day, and she went to the deli counter at the grocery store. And she was waiting in line, and somebody there was being like really demanding. And without even thinking, she said, after they had finished saying, like, I want this, 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 and this, super rude, she was like, please. And just it's automatic to correct them because and the person like snapped out of it and actually was like, please. So that is absolutely true. Giving those corrections can be very helpful, but you never know if you're modeling those behaviors, what they're going to pick up on. Um, so how do you answer the question that people ask as a homeschooler about socialization, whether it's extended family or strangers? How do you answer that question? Ashley, let's hear from you.
I'm going to make everybody jealous. I've actually never gotten that question. Probably because they can't get my kid to shut up. So my kids are usually the first ones that somebody else is going to interact with. I'm probably the last one because, like I said, I'm very introverted. I would much rather not interact with anyone. And so if my kids can do it, I'm going to let them do it. And so, yeah, I've never actually gotten that question.
So, Sharon, let's hear from you on how do you answer the socialization question? Sharon, I think you're muted again.
Be a problem. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I would say the wonderful thing about homeschooling is you can choose your socialization, because having been in the public school venue of a couple states and everything and watching the demise of it, and my own particular friends that have retired and quit early because it was so very difficult for them. When you're a homeschooler, the wonderful thing is you choose the socialization. You can choose activities and make it so much fun, and you get to spend time with your children when they grow so quickly. Before you know it, they're older, and you just think, what happened? And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful choice, I think, because again, you don't have to force your child to. I have story after story. My son's wife's niece, they had to take her out of school because she had terrible experiences on the school bus. They went through 5 bus drivers in one semester. And, just having one thing like that happen, how is that helping your education? How is it helping your future to succeed? It's just not. And so if as a parent, you've got that wonderful ability to choose because you love them. And, it's just wonderful to be a homeschooler and socialization as far as that's concerned. You're not choosing negative, you're choosing positive socialization. And even if they think it's negative, I remember a dear friend of mine was homeschooling when I was, and her daughter gave her a real hard time, wanted to go to school, and about junior high, late junior high, oh, I want to be with my friends, etc. And she stuck to her guns, and the little girl homeschools. Now she got into college early. She's a vet. She's doing great, very happy. But for a time there, it was a struggle because she was pressuring. I want to go to home, I want to go to public school. I want to have all this socialization that my friend Penny didn't think would be a good thing because she knew the situation, but she stuck to her guns. Now her daughter is incredible, very successful and very happy. But as homeschoolers, it's such a wonderful blessing in socialization, in my opinion. So
I love that answer. So, Kimberly, I'd like to hear from you on how you answer this question.
Do we want to go back to Linda real quick because we skipped over her, and then I'll come back and answer things? Oh, no, she says no. Oh, okay. That's okay. I can go ahead then if you prefer me to. That's perfectly fine. When someone comes to me with this kind of a question, the first place I think anyone should start with is one, we all dread this question, or at least I used to. I don't dread it anymore. And honestly, I've not gotten it that often. I've gotten it from people who don't know me very well. Well, that's not true. I've gotten it from a few family members. But my take on it is you chose to homeschool. This is just you with your own internal dialogue for your own reasons for what is best for your family. Most of the time people pose this question when they don't really understand. They think it's unusual. It's something very different. They don't know anyone else who homeschools, and they don't really understand your personal reasons behind it. It's the same reasons. It's just a personal parenting decision. When I get this question, or when I've gotten this question, this is how I approach it. One, not defensively. It's very, very easy to take that question and feel like you need to go on the defense, and then in turn go on the offense and start giving off all of these laundry list reasons of how you socialize your child. The reality is you don't know any explanation for how you choose to parent your child or what you choose to do with your child. Those choices reside with you. If someone continues to pressure you on that answer, you can say, thank you, but I'm not going to have this conversation with you. If you feel like you want to give an answer, this is how I've approached it in the past. I've said, well, what do you mean by that? That's interesting. Tell me more. Tell me more. Approach it as sort of a dialogue. What do you mean exactly by socialization? And then if they rattle off examples, being with other kids, that gives me an opportunity to educate. It gives me an opportunity to say, well, socialization looks like many different things. And here are my examples. Socialization also looks like the difference for my family. This is what's important for me: quality over quantity. And those two things are very key in how you choose to socialize your child. You can go attend 100 events in a year, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to truly connect with another person, or that you're going to connect in a way that is meaningful. So I would say, first of all, definitely don't go on the offense for it. Allow them to ask the question, unless they get pushy and kind of in your face. I know sometimes, and then you can just say, thank you, I'm just not going to have this discussion with you. Thank you for asking. I understand, but I'm not going to have this discussion with you. No is a full sentence.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's wonderful public school teachers that are Christians that are called to ministry in the public school classrooms. Now, and I want to just uphold them because that's what God's told them to do. Because if you have one child, my mentor said, if a child has one person who believes in them, they can make it. And there's so many children, they're not fortunate like we love our, I mean, if you can't homeschool, that's a great blessing. But I loved your answer, Kimberly. It was perfect. But I just wanted to say that because I know it is quite a ministry for some people.
So, one of the things that my family experienced a lot is that each of the individual kids was oftentimes asked, "How do you get your socialization?" by adults at events where we were socializing. And so, our reaction, what we figured out is because we would talk about it with each other, like, how do we answer this question? This is so confusing. We're at a farmer's market volunteering. And so we realized that if there's an adult that's asking us, how do you get your socialization at an event where we're socializing, where we're interacting with people, we just say, this is how we do it. We do volunteering. I have lots of siblings. We're all here together forming connections with people and interacting with people. Well, what about kids? Your kids are here volunteering who we are volunteering with. So helping your kids to be able to have answers to that, of if adult asks them, like, hey, what's, they would try to do, multiplication on it, then we would just answer the question. But giving them permission that you don't have to answer those questions. You can simply say, I am here at this event socializing, or I'm at the grocery store. This is part of how I get out and socialize. Equipping your kids with those answers was really helpful, because when we brought that to our parents, we're just like, how are we supposed to answer this question? I'm just so confused when these people ask this. They're like, you can just say, I'm here at this event. That's part of my homeschool experience. And so I know that a lot of parents get that questions, but kids get the questions too. So let's go on to the next question, and that is, what are your winter or summer socialization hacks? And what I mean by this is, for those of you who are stuck indoors during the winter because you have a couple feet of snow, or those of you that in the summer are in the 100 degrees, do you have tips for being able to help kids be able to socialize when they cannot leave the house? So Ashley, let's hear from you.
My family cheats. We go to good weather. So my kids are always outside. We're almost always around other kids, so it's really easy. But we also have friends back home that my kids still want to keep in touch with. So they use Kids Messenger or Messenger Kids, whatever it's called, and talk to their friends back home and other friends that they meet along our travels and keep in touch that way.
Linda, do you have something that you wanted to share on this one?
I do. I want to just add on to, I don't know if anybody remembers highlights with Goofus and Gallant. That was back on I was thinking of it when Kimberly was talking about manners. And the second thing for the last question, I've taught in the classroom for over 25 years. And last year I substituted just to kind of pay bills while our business was getting stronger. And I tell this to, when I've done my sessions at the homeschooling conventions, I tell the student or the parents, that I think what you're doing is the right thing, because when I go into that classroom, there's a teacher. She's a special ed, but she's like in the classroom helping particular kids. And there was a first grader that I couldn't believe what he was doing throughout the day. And I was like, it made me so darn uncomfortable. I'm like, he's doing this in front of all these children. And here, what I'm telling you is, you just have to say, I get to choose who my child socializes with. And that's huge. And that could even a stressed out teacher. If you're just done because, you just got 5 brand new, kids to your class that week, and you can't even teach, you're starting over with them again. I'm just thinking that, your child, you get to be there, even if you leave them in a co-op for the session, at least you hopefully have vetted who's there. And because I worry for my grandchildren. But anyways, back to the other question. I have a vision. I would love, so there used to be singing schools back in the 1700s and 1800s in the United States. I would love to see singing co-ops where children get together once or twice a week and they sing together, they play together, doesn't matter what the weather is out there, as long as you can get there, wherever it is, they all pay a very low fee just to experience it. If they need, if they don't have a music teacher, but hopefully they do, or just use the program or whatever, and they just have fun together. And I hope that's like the highlight of their week every week. So that's my vision for being inside. And hey, you know what? I've taken my kids outside to play a game too when the weather is nice. So that's just my vision for the future.
My family would have absolutely adored that. We're a very musical family. I remember we had some friends over. We were like, our parents were babysitting them basically because their parents were like going out on a trip. And they were like, "Oh, you don't have to entertain me. You don't need to like sing all of these songs to like entertain me." And we're like, looked at them like, "Oh no, we're just doing chores." And they're like, "But you have like all of your like, singing all the different parts of the song." And I'm like, "Yes, because this is one of the songs that we sing while we're working." And we're like, do people not sing at your house? And she's like, "No, we don't sing at our house." We're like, "Well, that's really boring." But I think that is something that would be super fun. And I think there's a lot of really musical families out there that, we sing for fun. And I think that being able to have like a school or a curriculum that we could have followed would have been really fun. So I look forward to seeing how you are going to be able to bring this to the homeschool world. Sharon, do you have some winter or summer socialization hacks?
Yes, and I wanted to add one thing. There's a book called The Way They Learn by Cynthia Tobias, and kids have different learning styles. And when you're in charge of a public school classroom, you might have 30 kids. So you have to think that all these kids are different. They're individuals and they have different learning styles. And so a really good teacher works very hard to at least have 3 different levels where you can have them succeed. It's very difficult. When you're a homeschool mom, you can know your kids individually. It's so wonderful. And you can work with them individually. And it's such a blessing to get to do that. And for the activities, of course, I would say art museum. And I think that the key to something like that is researching the museum and have them maybe take 10 recommended works of art. And a lot of times, you want to be very careful with what children see because it's a camera click. They're not going to forget it. So you have to watch visually that you want them to see things that are appropriate. So, you have to really think about that. But the fun thing is, there's really fun pictures and you can get them to do the research. And then when they actually go see the original, it's so exciting. And another thing is murals. I try to work and mentor older homeschool students and in art, and there's so many places like City Union Mission, and it's a breath of fresh air. If you could just say, well, we're going to come and get a group, we're going to do a really beautiful mural so the children there can see beauty, and it's just such a joy because if you do that, these kids that are homeless and are hurting, they're going to get to see something really beautiful. Or even then the students can get to do things also and make money with it, which is really important as well. In fact, we were asked to do a mural at the it's the Arcadia Academy, and it was a 200-year-old girls' school. It started as a Civil War hospital, but they wanted murals there. So even as a family, just get together and do a picture together. It's very, very therapeutical and really fun. And any way you can pull in writing about it afterwards, because then you've got your art and your English, how did you do it? Or what was the experience? So you're tying more subjects in than just the one. So yeah, but I think it's a great opportunity in art and other things too, to be able to have family fun and group activities in the visual arts.
I totally agree. My family is very artistic. And so one of the things we love to do is anytime there was a new mural that was put up in our town, we were in like a kind of a touristy area. We were mostly grew up where they have the Tulip Festival every year. And so as a result, they would put up a new mural about every other year or so in one of the towns in that county. And so it would always be a trip that we got to go see the new mural. And so
Yeah.
that's something that we really enjoyed. It was kind of like everyone else. If you drive around and see Christmas lights, going around and seeing the murals was kind of the same thing in the summer.
And even on the mission field, to be able to take, you know, you can visually, you know, you can see a message visually, and it transcends language. So if you get the cause, there's a story, and then I'll be done. But there's a story of a muralist in Chicago, and went to a real bad area, and he decided, you know, drugs and everything, and he did 3 murals, and the mural was the beauty of creation, the ugliness of sin, and then the cross of Christ. And they didn't know how the gang members would react. This was in Charisma magazine. And it turned out that the gang members started being real protective, and they were getting involved. And the drug places in that particular, this is what it said, closed. And because of this beautiful picture of Christ and the gospel visually, that could be seen visually, you know, which is very, very powerful. So, you know, I just thought I'd share that. And that's something kids can work on, because our children can speak to their generation for Christ, I think, like we can't. They can come up. I mean, I'm an old person, but I mean, they can come up with the ideas visually to win their generation. And it's so we just need to be allowing the kids that are gifted in that area, and just like the kids that are musically, that's their anointing and their gifting, to be able to work with that gifting and to bring it up to where, you know, God can really use it. And I think that's something as homeschool parents we're able to do, to look at our children individually and say, where does God have you? What should we be working on in your life? Like you,
Where they're
yeah,
talented and where they
Amelia,
have their passions.
you've done this amazing thing that you've done, because your parents obviously have encouraged you, you know, to do this. So I mean, that's a good thing. That's terrific.
Thank you. So, Kimberly, I would love to hear from you on your summer socialization hacks.
Well, in a way, I cheat a little bit like Ashley does too. We don't necessarily leave, but I live in the DFW Metroplex. So Texas is a very homeschool family friendly state. Throw a rock, hit a homeschooler. So we have a plethora of just, oh my goodness, opportunities where we can get out and go. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because I'm very, very appreciative. Even from when our son was very little, when we moved here, he was 3 months old. So there were indoor playgrounds. So I could take him out into all of these various indoor playgrounds because the heat is really pretty serious and pretty severe here. And I would just go on Meetup, or I would go on Facebook events, and I would find what all the different opportunities were. That they are incredibly affordable. The local businesses that we have around here really pour back into the homeschooling community, and they give major discounts for homeschoolers. We can go to, and I don't say that to say, oh my goodness, envy this because, you know, we have all these things around us. I say this because if you don't have that in your area, reach out to those businesses and ask them, would they be willing to offer that? That's something I'm getting ready to do with an adaptive swim class for a friend. The child doesn't fit traditional swim lessons. The child doesn't fit but is a little bit too older for or doesn't qualify for swim team. So we need something kind of in the middle. But we're also looking for something for homeschool swim, for a homeschool PE. If there's not something out there, the possibilities are limitless. It just takes for you being able to reach out and connect with that business and say, hey, you have a venue, you have a class, you have a course, you have something that would be a good match for our community. What rate would you be willing to charge if I can bring people on board to help us provide a way to go and get out of the heat? I can't really relate to the snow because we shut down here when it snows. I mean, in 2020, we had COVID. In 2021, we had Snowmageddon, and it was no joke. We're not equipped for that. I don't know how to handle snow. I'm a Southerner by birth. I don't do more than 3 flakes, and I don't leave the house. So that's just I don't do the cold. It is what it is. So if you don't have the opportunities that you can't find on Facebook or you can't find on Meetup, but you know of businesses in your area, reach out to them and ask them if they would be willing to charge that reduced rate for homeschoolers. But also make sure that you reach out to the homeschoolers in your community and ask them if they would support that rate, because that has been kind of the double-edged sword to it. We've had some businesses that have wanted to offer that, but then homeschoolers don't show up or they don't commit to it. And I know that is kind of a hard way to balance, but that is how we handle it for the different opportunities to get out, to get to explore and do different things. We're also fortunate enough that the local art museums here on Friday in Fort Worth, they offer free admission on Fridays. So we can get out and go do things like that. There are reduced rates for the zoo. There are reduced rates for all of these other different, I'm trying to think, botanic gardens. I was like, what's it called where they grow stuff? Botanic gardens. There's all different ways where you can find homeschooler discounts. You can also do play dates at your house. Make arrangements for trading off play dates with a trusted friend, or someone else who might be in your co-op or who might be in your pod. Reach out and make those connections. In all honesty, the options are only limited by your imagination and by your willingness to reach out and make those connections, whether it's to businesses or to other homeschooling families.
So, being that I was in Idaho, we only had one sibling that was being homeschooled at Idaho left. All the rest of us had graduated, but you still get really pretty bad cabin fever because I feel like we were snowed in for a good 3 months where we just really couldn't leave all that much. And so I really actually appreciate all of the Zoom meetups that people have now available. Being able to meet with my book club and things like that really made a difference so that I was able to, even as an adult homeschool graduate, be able to meet all of those socialization that you need. So in the winter, I would highly recommend that you guys find a online community that your kids can be able to interact with people. And that actually kind of dovetails into the end of this roundtable. And that is that I want to thank our sponsor, My Homeschool Village. They actually have all of those really cool clubs. They have Minecraft Club, Book Club, and even some like art classes that you can do together with different like little art projects. So I highly recommend that you guys go check out My Homeschool Village. It's only $25 a month. So if you guys are looking to meet some of those socialization requirements and leaving the house isn't easy for you, this is a great way to be able to get that and make friends without having to leave the house. I would love to hear from each of you about a little bit about your business and any freebie or a product that you would like to share with everyone. I really appreciate you guys for coming on here and sharing your experiences and expertise. So Ashley, let's hear from you first.
So my blog does reviews of board, card, and dice games. My husband is actually writing me an article or a series of articles on video games. So hopefully that'll come out eventually. But I have in my shop a bunch of different unit studies and that sort of thing. And my freebie, we could do like the family game night board game. So if you have a family game night and you're struggling to decide what games to play, you can play this board game and it'll tell you what games to play.
Okay, me next. So I have an online music education platform, kindergarten through 5th, 6th grade, depending where you start. It's all through video lessons and gives a complete music education program through singing folk songs to learn how to read and write music. And we add instruments and games, of course, to keep it fun. And I created a sing-along, a folk song sing-along that I would be happy to donate. When I was at a convention, I hadn't looked at it in a while, and they come up with an older kid. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think that would be, it's kind of for younger kids, because I was thinking Eensy Weensy Spider and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then I actually looked at the playlist and went, oh my gosh, there's Over the River and Through the Woods and Frere Jacques and So gotta know what I put in there. So it's kind of fun. So to get the kids interested in singing for those co-ops that are going to pop up eventually.
Sharon, I'd like to hear from you.
Okay. I have a program in Google Classroom that is, it meets a learning expectation like for a high school art credit, and it's all in the classroom. And so for only $25, a child could enter the classroom and do it at their own speed. I would charge more, of course, if I give them personal lesson, but I have a mentorship program where I can work with advanced students that want to get into college, get scholarships. They want to do freelance work, etc. And I'm just starting to do like, and I can send it to you. And it's a program doing research on the depression, the Great Depression. I said the Great Depression, but the arts and crafts that they used in each period of history, because it's really fun for young people to be able to, like Applehead dolls. And it's something you could do for family fun at different ages that you wouldn't have to spend a lot of money. I remember I used to wear a necklace that was made out of dehydrated potatoes, and everybody would say, "Is that turquoise? Oh my word, it's gorgeous." And it was just dehydrated potatoes, that I painted like turquoise. And that you could, there's so many things like that to save money, that I think the creativity of the period, that depression period when people didn't have a lot of money, I think people are having to do that again and use a lot of creativity with art supplies and getting things together, because it takes a lot of money to go to some place like Michael's or Hobby Lobby and spend 40-50 bucks to get somebody set up to do a big canvas painting. But you can use alternatives and you can do it and save a lot of money. So yeah, I put my first one out yesterday, and then you can listen to it for free. And then if you want, I'll even send you the I didn't want to bore people with a big long PowerPoint presentation. So I took parts of it that I thought were interesting, but you can get the PowerPoint that has details and then just pick and choose what you want to do with your kids. Thank you.
Sounds like a lot of fun, Sharon. Kimberly, please tell us about the Homeschool Counseling Network.
Well, the Homeschool Counseling Network was created to help bridge the gap between homeschooling families and professionals in the areas of education, mental health, and therapy, such as occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists that are equipped and familiar with homeschool families to support them on their home education journey. We have multiple directories of professionals who sign up to join our network to have their practices listed with us. So it can be a little difficult from times when you have to reach out and get that additional support to help you home educate your child and you're not really sure where to begin. So that is pretty much the premise of what we were founded on, to help bridge that gap. So we've also added a course directory. We've also added, oh my goodness, what else is in there? A couple of other different things that are in there. We also have resources such as articles and blog posts, and we have some video content that's in there. We have some mini workshops, and we also have a few other things that are coming on board that I'm going to talk about in hopefully future episodes here. But we also have the freebie that I would like to offer to the homeschooling community. All the directories are free, but we've introduced the newest directory that we have, which is providers that offer free or reduced cost counseling or mental health therapy services. And there's at least one provider for all 50 states. So that is our newest directory that you can find at homeschoolcounselingnetwork.com.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope this was super helpful for you, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with all of our homeschool community. Thanks for creating this amazing resource, and thank you for spending your time to share your insights and expertise. See you later.